man, right quick. So, just wanted to talk some boxing. As you guys know, yesterday there was a fight between Javante Tank Davis and Essa Cruz, English Isaac. And the final results was Tank walked away with a unanimous decision in a very hard fought, bout in which Tank broke his hand, which Tank clearly broke his hand and was injured, unlike some people who out of nowhere came with a shoulder injury, but they was throwing punches throughout the fight. So, which I'm gonna talk about that. Tank couldn't even throw punches after a certain amount of rounds, and Tank was clearly injured. So Tank digs deep, fights through it, fights the last round with basically one hand, and basically jabs his way to a unanimous decision over Isaac Cruz. And then, in typical fashion, you have some people coming out said that Tank lost the fight, in which he didn't lose the fight. Now, there are some people that think Cruz won the fight. Well, here's the thing. If you think Cruz won the fight, that's your opinion. I disagree with you. And there's no way that you can break down this fight and try to convince me that Cruz beat Tank Davis. Because I can also say, yeah, on the part where you can say, well, Cruz was landing some hard shots. Yeah, occasionally. But he was clearly getting outboxed. And then whenever Cruz would get hit, Cruz would tug and try to wrestle and try to lift Tank up and try to, he was really fighting a dirty fight. Something that you accuse brothers of doing. Because like I said, at the end of the day, I seen the dynamics that go on in boxing, and I seen the BS that go on in boxing, and I know what this is all about. People were just last week saying that, this dude wasn't that good. Oh, okay. What's happening, man? What's going on, man? Appreciate that. So, yeah, so I just don't understand. You can't win for losing. If you're not a brother, you know what I'm saying, and you fight a tough, hard fight, win, lose, or draw, they'll say you a warrior. Deontay Wilder just last month gave it his all. He fought a hard-fought, tough bout with Tyson Fury. Now, unfortunately, Tyson Fury came out on the winning end, but Deontay Wilder still, to some people, didn't get credit for being a warrior, which Deontay Wilder, let me explain something, and you can take this however you want. Tyson Fury owes everything, almost everything, to Deontay Wilder. His recent popularity, his financial, his financial statements being bigger. Deontay Wilder pulled Tyson Fury out of obscurity when nobody cared about Tyson Fury. Nobody cared. Couldn't even get, man, Tyson Fury couldn't even get 10,000 people to come see him. But then Deontay Wilder comes out of nowhere. Not only does he give Tyson Fury a shot, he gives Tyson Fury half of the money. None of this stuff, I'm the bigger draw, none of this stuff, I'm the cash cow, and all this cornball stuff that some of these fighters is trying to do. And Deontay Wilder, who actually has been the real cash cow, the real pay-per-view star, not Errol Spence, not Tank, not really Canelo, because Deontay Wilder is the real cash cow. He's doing gold and almost platinum pay-per-view sales. But you got some fighters going double wood, you know what I'm saying, and triple plastic, and they talking about they such a draw. And then that's the thing, they get mad at me because, like I said, I won't follow a script. And people kind of get mad at me, which I don't, like I said, once again, I don't give a shit about you being mad at me. I don't give a shit if you ever speak to me. I'm going to continue what I'm going to say, and that's just the bottom line. So that's what's going on. But anyway, getting back to the Tank fight. Tank dug deep, managed to gut it out, show guts, but you won't hear Tank getting credit for saying, hey, Tank is a warrior. Nah, well, Tank lost. He lost. Tank got exposed. How did Tank get exposed? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, had Tank not broke his hand, Cruz would have suffered the same fate pretty much everybody else did. I promise you, more than likely, if Tank's hand is at least 70% of what it was before he broke it, Cruz is getting stopped. So get mad, be glad, or be sad. But at the end of the day, Tank won that fight. And like I said before, nobody can convince me otherwise that Tank lost that fight, because he didn't lose that fight. He dug deep, he pulled it out, and he won. Now, as I said before, the other question is, should Tank give Cruz a rematch? Yeah, he should. Will he? Well, that's up to Floyd. That's up to Leonard Ellaby. That's up to Al Heyman. I think Tank would fight him again. But Cruz going on this campaign like he got robbed and that the scoring was a travesty and all that kind of stuff. From what I've seen, most judges had it 8 rounds to 4. If I'm not mistaken, for Tank. That's a fair assessment. I had it, me myself, I had Tank winning it probably 7-5. Because me, unlike a lot of other people, I do have in my scoring system, the Town Business scoring section, I do have what you call even rounds. So I have some rounds where I'll just score like even, which I think they should do more of that in boxing. I think basically you would probably have a more clear outcome instead of making every fight, well, it has to be a 10-9 system. But I had Tank winning that fight. I had Tank winning that fight, so I don't know where this discrepancy came from. It was a robbery stuff. I want somebody to tell me I want somebody to name me like 7 rounds that you could give to Cruz. And like I said, pushing it, you know what I'm saying? Pushing it would be calling it a draw. So I want somebody to tell me what rounds, name 7 rounds that Cruz won decisively. Because I saw in this fight, Tank do something different. Tank didn't give away the first 4 rounds of a fight, and then he get going. Now, like I said, Cruz had his moments, but he wasn't doing enough. It's the same as it was the same as the JoJo Diaz fight. You gotta be like I said, you gotta be on drugs if you think JoJo Diaz won that fight versus Devin Haney. You got to. And don't get mad at me because I'm calling out poor sportsmanship among Hispanic fans, and particularly Mexicans. You didn't say nothing when Steve Kim made his remarks about black fighters and black people. You had no problem with Steve Kim when he was harassing Carissa Shields. So don't come on here thinking that you supposed to get sympathy and empathy for me. You could go to hell. But Tank won that fight. I dare somebody to try to name or try to point out 7 rounds that you thought Cruz won. You know why? Because you can't. You can't. Clearly lost the 12th round. I mean, he clearly lost the 12th round to a one-handed fighter. Like I said before, how come Tank don't get credit for being a warrior? For fighting with one hand? You get people that'll say he got exposed. And this is why, like I said, I'm different from everybody else. This is why why I didn't fell out of favor with certain people. Why I don't have, the subscribers or, what I'm saying, the people that, really listen to my channel. Because I have, my fan base is based off people that can take criticism and that really listen. And like I said, I don't cater to nobody. I'm not about to massage nobody's ego, stroke nobody's ego, and I don't care what they look like. But to sit up there and try to pretend that Cruz won that fight, like I said, if you think Cruz won that fight, you need to be tested for drugs. You need to go to Walmart or Rite Aid or go to CVS and get you a home drug testing kit, because you are on drugs, or you just ended the aisle, or you don't know nothing about boxing, or you're just culturally and racially biased. And that's all it come down to. But I knew this was going to happen. The brothers never get credit for digging deep and fighting a tough fight. If we dominate, like I said, you can't win for losing. If you show your dominance, you ain't fought nobody. You're not that good. But if you battle, you go to war, you either been exposed or you know what I'm saying, or the other guy should have got the victory. But then they'll come on my channel and say, hey, let's not make this about, you know what, hey, this and that, because I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. Well, like I said, I don't pay attention to these dudes. Because like I said before, anybody that think JoJo Diaz won that fight, like I said, you're nuts. Even JoJo Diaz accepted his defeat. So if he didn't think he won, if he didn't think he got the win, then why should we be sitting up here, you know what I'm saying? Saying that that JoJo Diaz won when he didn't. So go take that stuff somewhere else. You on the wrong channel. I think this is what I think gonna happen with Devin. Devin, the same way Devin got caught a couple of times, I don't think Devin was hurt. It's a difference between getting buzzed and then being hurt. Okay, when you get buzzed, it's like, whoa, like he hit me. You may be stunned for a couple of seconds, and then you shake it off. Hurt is when you on the verge. If you get hit with another punch or another shot, you may possibly be down on the canvas. And at the end of the day, I'm glad that Devin is starting to get hit a little bit more, because this is going to help him in the long run. This is going to help him be able to observe and take punches a little bit better. Because if you not used to getting hit or fighting harder punchers, when you really do get nailed, then you don't know how to react. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Devin should sit up there when he fights, like, you know, put his chin out there and dare somebody to hit him and let him have a free shot. No, but it's going to make him better. Because now Devin is getting used to getting hit now. But then that's also going to help Devin tighten up his defense. You know, keep in mind, Devin is only 23 years old. And if you look at this fight, if you look at the first half of this fight, Devin Haney was winning that fight going away. Once again, just like the Linares fight. But no, Devin Haney won clearly, and Tank won. No controversy, no robbery. You know, the people that's thinking that, they just delusional. It's a figment of their imagination. They for real, they seeing something that's not there. Both Tank and Devin Haney won. So people need to stop that. We all know that we all know what's up with that. All right, so let me talk about something else. I'll get back to Devin Haney and Tank before I end this stream. Now, also, I said something, I made a video. Now, let's talk about the potential opponent that Tank was actually supposed to fight, and that was Rolly Romero. Now, Tank was scheduled to fight Rolly Romero, and then unfortunately, Rolly Romero, with like 3 weeks left, if I'm not mistaken, had to pull out of the fight. Now, to my knowledge, Rolly hasn't been arrested. It's just accusations at this time. Rolly should have been allowed to fight. At the end of the day, I don't think we always have to cater to some woman because she's making accusations. Until Rolly was sitting up in front of a jury and a judge, he should get the benefit of the doubt. Or until there's a conviction. Rolly should have been allowed to continue with his business. Rolly should have been allowed to fight. At the end of the day, sometimes you need to ignore protesters because it's like this. It's the same thing with people that was protesting Dave Chappelle. They got ignored, which they should have been ignored. Dave Chappelle moved on. And like I said before, I'm not finna sit up here, and I know this, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not finna sit up here every time some woman say that somebody a man allegedly did something to them, that they're automatically telling the truth. Because it's been proven time and time again that a woman will use these situations to try to extort money or try to bring notoriety to themselves, trying to basically get extra subscribers to their either YouTube channel or their social media, looking for book deals, looking for movie deals at the expense of the person. So excuse me if I'm not one to just be like, oh my God. But I stand by what I said. Rolly should have been allowed to fight. Rolly kind of claimed that something was suspect about it, but I'm not going to go there. But I do believe, from my own assessment, Rolly should have been allowed to fight. Well, I said that Rolly Romero should have been allowed to fight. And I stand by that. I stand by that statement. I'm not buffering where I'm at, but he should have been allowed to fight. Because from my knowledge, Rolly hasn't been arrested, or he doesn't have a court date scheduled. If he does, they've been keeping this thing under wraps. I mean, he been walking around going to boxing matches. Obviously, Rolly ain't too worried about it. I didn't see people boo him. People still want to do interviews with him. So that's my assessment. Why was Rolly pulled from the fight? Why was he forced to pull from the fight? He should have been allowed. He should have been allowed to fight. I stand by my statements. Whether you like Rolly or not, he hasn't had his day in court. He hasn't been to court. Doesn't have any court date scheduled for my knowledge. And I've been looking, keeping track of it. So if he does have anything scheduled, they've been keeping it under wraps. So my assessment, he should have been allowed to fight. That's just real talk. Now, let me get to something else, and then I'll get back to Tank and Devin Haney. Okay, so in case you guys don't know, Tyron Woodley has been, basically he's been, he's going to be the replacement for Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury pulled out of the fight, saying that he got some reports said undisclosed reason. Then some reports said that he had some kind of chest injury. I don't know. Maybe he got the same thing that Teofimo Lopez posted had a chest injury. Okay. But nevertheless, Tommy Fury pulled out of the fight. He will be replaced by Tyron Woodley. By the way, that fight is in 2 weeks. That's on a Saturday. If I'm not mistaken. And one day before that, on the 17th, you'll have Arthur Beterbiev versus Sir Marcus Brown. So, But let me talk about this. Now, as you guys know, I'm going to use the word allegedly, and from what I heard, because I have to protect my brand, I have to protect my channel. But this story was kind of swept under the rug by a lot of content creators, but there were several reports There were several reports. Yeah, J Dog. There were several. You can look this up, J Dog. There were several reports claiming that fake Paul put a stipulation in the contract that Tyron Woodley wasn't allowed to knock him out. Now, all of a sudden, Jake Paul, this is why I know something is suspicious about this. Now Jake Paul puts it in the newest contract. Oh, I'll give you an extra $500,000 if you can knock me out. Because it's almost like this got back to him. So now he said, well, not only will I prove that there wasn't nothing to the rumors that I'm going to put in a stipulation that, well, if he knocks me out, he gets an extra. You know, that's psychological stuff, man. And keep in mind, that stuff don't work on me. Stuff don't work on me. But it was allegedly put in the contract. This came from several media outlets, said that Jake Paul put a stipulation in the contract that he couldn't be knocked out. So basically, the outcome was predetermined. Woodley wasn't going to win a decision, and then they wasn't going to allow him to knock out Jake Paul. And which, by the way, he damn near knocked out Jake Paul with one shot. Jake Paul held up against the ropes, which, by the way, that should have been a knockdown, which the referee missed that. That should have been a knockdown. And then you had these Jake Paul fanatics, these idiots coming out of nowhere like caping for him. And then, not to mention, and I'm about to get to that too. Also, Jake Paul refused PED testing for this fight with Tommy Fury. I can't speak for Tommy. I can't speak for Tyson Fury. We already know Tyson Fury's history with PEDs, wild boar meat, the booger sugar, all that kind of stuff. So we all know his history. Now, Tommy Fury, I don't know. Tommy Fury, I don't know enough about him, or I don't know his background. He's a reality star and all that kind of stuff overseas and stuff, as well as being a professional boxer. So he does both. So I haven't heard nothing suspicious about Tommy Fury, but Tyson Fury, that's a different story. It is a such thing as you are who you share DNA with, because, Tommy Fury and Tyson Fury, they have the same daddy. They have different mamas, but they have the same father. So I'm being fair, but yeah, we know Tyson Fury's history. Now, also I'm also thinking, and I'm gonna go there. My own assessment, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe, allegedly, behind the scenes, they asked Tommy Fury to do the deep sea dive. Because one, they have this master plan to put eventually Jake Paul in the ring with Canelo. This is why I'm hearing all this. This is another reason why you've been hearing all this talk about Canelo moving up to cruiserweight, so they can legitimize the fight by saying, yeah, Canelo fought as high as cruiserweight. So this fight makes all the sense in the world, because that's what they want to do. They want to set up some super fight between Canelo and Jake Paul. So Showtime may not want fake Paul to lose anytime soon. You guys have to understand this. In boxing, it's a lot of politics. So I wouldn't be surprised if they asked Tommy Fury to look the other way and go down. Allegedly. And I think when he didn't comply, and then also, not to mention, they refused random drug tested. Well, Team Fury was probably like, you know what, forget it. We're going to pull out of this fight, allegedly. We're going to say we got a chest injury, allegedly. So that's my assessment of what I think happened. Possibly could have happened, may have happened. Wouldn't be surprised if it comes out that happened. Because I'm just going to keep it a buck. I don't believe in Jake Paul whatsoever. I know this is to a certain degree, this is like a charade. Because me, myself, I didn't think he was going to go through with a fight with Tommy Fury. And then when this fight got made, I started to think, okay, what's finna happen in this fight? When you start hearing about Jake Paul turning down drug testing for this fight, not wanting to do drug testing, say, hey, we're not going to do random drug testing. Okay, that's kind of suspicious. Then you heard about the Tyron Woodley thing. So that's even more suspicious. So I was like, okay, I wonder if they're going to ask Tommy Fury to look the other way and then just go down. Because to be honest with you, that Ben Askren fight looked suspicious. It looked real. It looked real suspicious. I promise you right now, if David Benavidez or somebody like that said, you know what, I'll step in, I'll fight. I'll promise you, if David Benavidez said, you know what, I'll fight Jake Paul on 2 weeks' notice, I bet you Jake Paul wouldn't take that fight. I'll promise you. I bet you right now, David Benavidez said, you know what? I'll take that fight. I'll take that fight on 2 weeks' notice. And we know David Benavidez would destroy Jake Paul. When I say Jake Paul would probably run out of the ring probably after the first round, if he don't get put to sleep. If he don't get put to sleep. But we know Jake Paul ain't going to take that fight. Because he know what'll happen to him. So, I'm not gonna watch the Tyron Woodley fight with Jake Paul for what? There's no reason for me to watch that fight. Because we already know that more than likely, allegedly, he won't be allowed to fight to his full potential. If you put in stipulations where, hey, I can't be knocked out, you can't knock me out, but I'm just so why? Well, OG, I have to disagree with you, and I'm just gonna keep it a buck. Jake Paul is not that good, and I would put, if that fight is legitimate, I would put 5 racks on Tommy Fury to demolish Jake Paul. Jake Paul ain't that good neither. Actually, he's not good at all. Tommy Fury would beat Jake Paul in a straight up and down legitimate fight. Book it. Jake Paul is trash. Jake Paul is worse than Tommy Fury. I never said Tommy Fury was a world beater, but he more experienced than Jake Paul. Look who Jake Paul did fought. And it seems to be a pattern. That Ben Askren fight looked suspicious. The Tyron Woodley fight was even double suspicious. Because if you look at the fight closely, Jake Paul was knocked out going down. And the ropes woke him up. And then the referee refuses to give Jake Paul a 10 count when he clearly was knocked down. If the ropes hold you up, that's a standard 8, that's an 8 count. You still supposed to get an 8 count. And then Tyron Woodley held back. Yep, and Jake Paul couldn't stop, and Jake Paul couldn't knock out behind, best years behind him MMA fighter. So what's the difference? I'm not caping for Tommy Fury. But I'm not giving fake Paul no credit when you putting stipulations in your contract. The master plan is to set up a showdown with Canelo. Showtime wants that, and that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna keep that dude winning. Jake Paul either will stop Tyron Woodley. He'll give him allegedly probably something extra to go down this time, because that's what they want to do. They want to build this big fight. With Canelo and Jake Paul. More than likely, Las Vegas, probably at the Raiders Stadium, because I've been seeing Mark Davis. Mark Davis has been coming to a lot of fights. So usually when you start seeing Mark Davis sitting at a lot of these fights, that means something's in the works. So that's probably where they want to have the fight at. And people will come and see it because Jake Paul got a big fan base. He got 22 million subscribers on YouTube. Something like that. So that's what they want to do. Showtime, and I talked about this with a couple of brothers on the LDBC. And they believe the same thing. They want to keep Jake Paul winning, because at the end of the day, if he go into a fight with Canelo and he already has a loss, then the value of the fight decreases, because you figure, Canelo is going to kill Jake Paul because he already got a loss. So what better way to legitimize the fight by saying, okay, well, see, let me break this down so you can understand this. Okay, well, people have said Jake Paul won't fight an actual fighter. Well, Tommy Fury is a registered actual fighter, and he's fought actual fighters instead of MMA fighters. Now, keep in mind, he got less than 10 fights in, but he's still a professional fighter. So if Jake Paul goes in there and let's just say he knocks out Tommy Fury, see, I told you. Y'all say he wouldn't fight a real fighter. He can't beat a real fighter. So guess what? People fall for it. They take the bait, and then that further legitimizes Jake Paul. And then his fans start to really believe in him more and more and more. It's the great white hype situation. Like how they used to sell that fight. James the Grand Reaper Roper was undefeated, but then everybody he was knocking out, they did the same thing to him, which they do in boxing for real. James the Grim Reaper Roper was really that good of a fighter because he was knocking everybody out. He was like, 38-0 or so, all by knockout. And they did, and this is what they really do. So they say James the Grim Reaper Roper ain't fought nobody. So what they do is they dig up this white boy that knocked him out in the amateurs with an overhand right. They hype him up. Then he ends up like knocking out a potential opponent for James the Grim Reaper Roper. Everybody sees it. Now, this is before the YouTube era. This movie was made like in 1996, 97, something like that. So then this is the beginning stages of the internet. So people start to see it. They start to catch on. This dude builds an instant fan base. Sets up a fight. Most people know the outcome, or most people with common sense believe the outcome, but the way they sell this guy, they believe that, he's going to beat James the Grim Reaper Roper. They believe that a white guy go come out of nowhere and beat the heavyweight champ. And what happens? You have people fight day betting on what the lady said. She say $50 on the clean cut white boy. And what happens? Soon as the fight begins, James the Grim Reaper Roper destroys the dude. Not even close. But they make a killing on pay-per-view. They make a killing at the gate. So that's what they're trying to do with Canelo and fake Paul. He can't go into no Canelo fight with a loss because nobody's not going to really buy into that fight. But you going to have, if he goes into that fight undefeated, you going to have Jake Paul's naive fans that's going to buy into that. That's going to think he really have a chance against Canelo. And then when the opening bell rings, Canelo will probably carry Jake Paul for about 3 or 4 rounds because nobody don't want to see Canelo like destroy Jake Paul in like 2 or 3 rounds. Canelo will carry him. Jake Paul will land something to sell the fight. And then probably after the 6th round, they'll tell Canelo, all right, let him have it. And then Canelo will start breaking Jake Paul down. And probably by the 8th or 9th round, Canelo knocks out Jake Paul. Jake Paul walks away with like 20 million. Canelo walks away with like, who knows, 60 million. And then that's it. Do you guys understand this? See, I'm different from everybody. I'm trying to give you guys a glimpse of the future. This is what's coming. This is what they're trying to do. So that's why they say. But I guess What's-Her-Face didn't want to be part of it. I guess Tommy Fury didn't want to be part of it. It's the same. Yeah, and that's exactly what they did with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Floyd carried Conor McGregor. Floyd could have knocked Conor McGregor out in 3 rounds. But they had to make it look sellable. And then you had these racists that really believed that Conor McGregor was going to beat Floyd Mayweather. And you're going to have the same thing with Jake Paul. You're going to have these clueless boxing fans. You're going to have some of these suspect white supremacists that's going to believe that this white boy is going to beat this Mexican. And Canelo is going to demolish Jake Paul. Nobody with common sense believed that Floyd was going to lose the fight. Like I said, he made he made so much money off that fight. The fight does allegedly, some reports said the fight did 6 million worldwide. Some fights said it did. It did at least 4 million pay-per-view buys. Conor McGregor makes like almost $100 million, and that's what's going to happen with Jake Paul. That's why Canelo is back on Showtime. Do you guys not see what's going on here? I know y'all smarter than that. And that's what's going to happen. They're not going to let Jake Paul lose to anybody right now because they want to try to get that Canelo fight. So they're going to keep him winning. They're going to keep him winning. And then maybe by 2023, the middle of 2023, the end of 2023, you going to have Canelo versus Jake Paul. Either Las Vegas or somewhere else. Because that's the whole overall goal. Because Showtime feel like, hey, we did it with Floyd, so why can't we do it with Canelo? And I'm telling you, Canelo is going to demolish Jake Paul. Well, as far as that goes, I mean, Conor McGregor, I mean, it is what it is. He may be Irish, but at the end of the day, he still got the complexion protection. But yeah, that's the overall plan. That's what they want to do. That's what they trying to do. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's what's going to happen. But anyway, like I said, get back to Tank and Devin. Tank should just run it back with Cruz. I don't know how long it's gonna take for Tank's hand to heal up, because once you a hand injury, like to a certain degree, it kind of can stick with you. Hand bothered him his whole career. That's why Floyd wasn't able to knock people out like he used to. But what Floyd did, he tightened up his defense, and he would just box circles around you. Do I think Tank can recover from this? At his age, yeah, you never know. Keep in mind, medicine is a lot better than it is, it is now than it was when Floyd was like pretty boy Floyd. So, Tank could go through some rehabs and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's kind of hard to heal a hand injury because I broke my arm a long time ago, and my arm was never the same. And I'm talking about I broke my arm in 3 places. When I fell off a swing, I'm talking about they had to literally twist my arm back, and literally twist my arm back in shape. They actually wanted to amputate it, to be honest with you. But they had a specialist that saved my arm. They told me that they told me my arm would never be the same. They told me my arm would be useless. But, it isn't. It isn't. I recovered, I write with my left hand, and that's the arm that I broke. I went through 3 years. I went through 3 years of rehab. You know. So, it is what it is. Just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, hopefully Devin gets the undisputed, but Kimboza, he just got a lot of options. And, at the end of the day, I can't blame him. If a lucrative fight with Lomachenko pops up, Kimboza gonna go where the money is, more than likely. And at the end of the day, he like his newfound fame. He don't want to give that up. People need to understand that. That's just real talk. But anyway, thanks for listening. It's your boy Town Biz. I'm out.